What's going on, everybody? Nigel Marcellus here. Welcome to another episode of the Convo. First, I want to thank y'all for showing all the love for all the past videos, the both roundtables. Man, that really means a lot. And, we're just going to keep growing, keep going, and get to that dream of being a late night talk show host. So, right now, I got the homie with me, Destin. I'm going to let him give a little intro of who he is, what he does. I want y'all to know. Before he even start, go to his TikTok, go to his Instagram, follow him. He's incredible. He's dope. But bro, what are you doing?
So what's going on, y'all? My name is Destin. I do a little bit of everything, I will say. I want to get on here and be like, yeah, I do therapy. I'm a PhD student, but I do a little bit of everything, man. I'm like a Disney kid who never did Disney. I be singing, dancing, painting, all type of crazy shit. But what I'm really good at is like therapy. So I'm getting my PhD in counseling psychology. I've been rocking out in school for like 3-4 years at this point. I'm ready to be done. So
me too.
That's what I'm doing now. But I guess what I'm most known for at this point is like traveling or either, mental health, being a black male therapist, and going down that route. That's kind of like my career at this point.
Yeah, that's what's up, bro. I already have like a list of questions with traveling that people want to ask me. Right. But what I really want to why I really brought you here is I just want to have a real conversation. You was on the round table, and I think that conversation was very powerful. We really got to dive deep into a lot of things that black men go through, how we navigate it. But what we were talking about earlier is that time flew. You know what I mean? So I think this is a really good opportunity for us to really just kind of bring some of those topics here and just talk about it. And I really wanted to start with something we were chopping about earlier,
right? As
far as being a black man and emotionally vulnerable earlier, and kind of how you navigated that, because you said earlier that it wasn't the easiest thing. So what was your experience being emotionally vulnerable early?
It was interesting. So shouts out to my older brother. I got an older brother. I told you a little bit about him earlier. He's 29. And he's always been my person in life. So if I would go talk to somebody about anything, it'd be my oldest brother. But I remember one of my earliest memories, I used to cry all the time. I don't know why. I just a big cry as a kid. For no reason. And I remember my brother telling me, he was like, all right, now you can't be doing all that crying. You need to man up type vibe. And me and him talk about it to this day, how he wish he didn't tell me certain stuff. And that's, we grow. Yeah. But I used to always just be crying and just being in tune and tapped in. But I think as I gotten older, I've learned how to almost mask it. It's I could be silly like y'all, but I know I ain't like y'all for real. So I can blend in the space and not be too overly involved in my emotions, manage myself. But behind closed doors, or when I'm we talked about it, with black women, I can open up that Pandora's box and feel safe. I always say it, black women are my safe space.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. I mean, I felt like I outcast in certain ways. I felt soft. I ain't like that. So I try not to appear in those type of ways. But for me, I mean, it's been a journey. I'm happy where I am now, where I feel like I still got work to do and there's a lot of growth that need to be had. But man, ultimately, it's we learning and growing every day. I'm just taking it day by day.
No, I definitely can relate, because I grew up in the same way of being very emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah.
And emotionally aware, and I felt like a lot of my peers weren't at the same, especially men.
Men.
They were not in the same space. So it's for me, I would always talk about feelings and emotion with women. And then similar to you, I was that idea of just being soft, it made me feel so much lesser of a man, that I always tried to hide that. Oh yeah, no, I'm not emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because what you said, I almost learned how to blend in and be able to talk guy talk with the homies, talking how they were, even though internally I would feel that conflict of yo, I don't really believe this. I don't really understand. I don't like what y'all talking about, but I felt like I had to be something in order to connect with them. You know what I mean? And it was hard for sure.
Yeah, I agree. There's difficulty in that too, and also even dating around. If you dating women, they also hold some of these problematic beliefs about men too. So even sometimes when you're in communication with women, you gotta test the waters with them too. What you think about this? Let me just throw you this and see what I told you about that earlier. Test your behavior, but let me just throw you this and see what you do with it. And most women, especially black women, are receptive of that. But there's some who I don't know, man, who doing all that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I just want you to know, you was getting a lot of flack for that line. What I said? People were yo, you testing women? You're not supposed to test women. A lot of people were sending me that feedback from you, and I was hey, listen.
Give me. I ain't gonna even get into that back. I'm gonna let it go. Listen. I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke with nobody. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that just as much as women know their worth and know what they're looking for, same as me. You know what I mean? So of course, just as much as I gotta be tried by fire, you gotta make sure I'm good shit, then likewise, I'll make sure you the same thing. Cause I ain't no sucker. You know what I mean? I'll put it out there.
So what's that been like for you, like dating and trying to navigate that? Because again, like what I'm finding is like for myself, because I'm a lot more emotionally aware, the conversations that I have with women are a lot different, and that's not what they're used to.
Yep.
And like when you get to a point where like you're used to a certain thing, and you got this whole new shift of energy and a whole new shift, that whole like dating dynamic changes. So like, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, man. Like ever since I put myself out there as like this therapist, or ever since I started officially owning like I have some type of emotional competence, I don't know. I feel like women be intimidated by that, bro. Like if there's ever like a debate or back and forth that I have with a woman, and we like just trying to make some sense of whatever the situation is. I know I'm not a therapist. I know I'm not a psychologist, but this is how I feel. I'm like, you got to preference it with that. We just two people kicking it for real. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. I think that women are very intrigued by a guy who understands their emotions and like are willing to communicate that openly. But there is a level of like adaptation and adjusting they have to do as well, because like they're not familiar with that, right? Like I think they are familiar with the guy who's stone cold. So I'm coming to you and tell you like that hurt my feelings. You like, boy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a different energy.
Yeah, she like, boy, what that hurt your feelings for? You know what I mean? Like they want you to tighten up too sometimes. So it's a balance in trying to figure out like, I guess how to maneuver a relationship now, because I don't think it's gotten any easier. If anything, now that I know what I want and what I need and how I feel about certain things, it just made life a lot more complex. It made you want to be a lot more intentional with the way you interact and how you're interacting. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think like what I always feel bad for is sometimes like, because I'm able to communicate and because I'm a lot more emotionally like open and vulnerable, it almost puts me like on a pedestal compared to a lot of things. But it's only because the bar is so low when it comes to men, right? So it's like, because women have so many of these experiences with men who like quite frankly aren't shit, or men who are treat women like horribly, or cannot communicate, or can't communicate, or can't open up, that like it just changes that dynamic. And I feel like for me, I kind of really struggle with trying to still like take the steps and not rush things, when I feel like sometimes in those situations when people find something that's like, oh, this is different, like you want to really build on that when I'm not all the way ready to build. So it's like this weird kind of like navigating both of those things. Yeah,
I hear you just said like a very like something I hear black men say all the time, like I'm not ready. What you mean? What's ready? What does readiness look like? Like what that mean? Because I say the same thing about this. You know, I don't know.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really have a specific answer. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes how ready shows up depends on the person. Yeah. And I think like there have been moments where in my mind I would play with the idea of like, oh, we could be something, and I didn't act upon it. But my homies or my friends around me were like, you need to do something. Bro, you missing out. You blocking your blessings because I'm so much in my head. Yeah. So I think like it shows up differently for different people and like what I'm looking for at the time. But I think for me, it always, I talked about this in the roundtable. I think for me, it comes back to this idea of like worthiness. Yeah. Like, am I good enough? Am I man enough for you? Can I really hold you down? Can I protect you? Can I take care of you? And I think sometimes I subscribe to like the older ways of what it means to be a man and being a provider. And then when I look at like my own financial situation, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I could provide for you in that way. Yeah. So I think sometimes like beyond the financials or like emotionally, it's like we're in grad school. You already know how much time and energy and effort. And then when it comes to like, man, can I spend that time on somebody? I don't know if I'm ready for that. But then I always have these moments where it's like that one person who I'm like, damn, I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready to go. Like if she say yes, I'm in with it. So I think for me, I don't know, that already shows up differently. Yeah, I agree. Same for me too. It's difficult to balance like dating and being in like a PhD program because we don't live like a 9-to-5 life. Not at all. It's like I'm in class at this point. I might be doing some practicum. I might be doing some reading. I might be doing this. I might be in a meeting. Like they don't understand like the fullness of what it means to be in a program. It's like now I said this in the round table, but now we're going back and forth about text back, and it's like, girl, I've been busy since 1 p.m. I'm sorry, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is very complex, and even with money too, though. Like I'm 26 years old, living on a graduate student stipend. That's nuts. I have friends who are making like 6 figures. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they've been making that for years and years on end. So I think it is difficult to manage like expectations of what it means to be a man, the ones that I subscribe to and the ones I don't subscribe to, and then also too realizing like I don't necessarily align with that yet.
So how do I balance feeling like, I guess I'm worthy enough to be in this relationship and be this like providing type of figure.
Yeah. What's wild too is that, like, especially again, like you, black women are my safe space. The people who I like talk to the most, and like a lot of the black women in my life have always told me, it's like a lot of the things that I'm worried about don't even matter. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of times people always assume that people want like the financials or all that, when it's really like what they're looking for, what they want you to bring to the table is the compassion, the love, the patience, and all the qualities that I already have. That sometimes like it's always that balance of trying to figure out like, okay, am I enough? Am I not? Yeah. Does she really, like, what does she want? What does she need? Do I provide that? And I think a lot of times, I'll be honest, I've missed out on a lot of great women, for sure. I've missed out building on a lot of like great people just because I was in my own head about it. So it's like, I feel like I'm in this place where I'm just trying to like learn from those experiences and not internalize it. Yeah. And not get in my own way.
Yeah, likewise too. I definitely, at my age of 26 now, I turned 26 recently, and I think that I'm 30 plus or something. I think I'm 30 plus or something. But no, like I think as I get older, you start to realize it's the fault in your own ways, and that's how that's deeply rooted in probably beliefs that you don't even have. Like I'm very keen and very aware of it. Just like I've fumbled a couple of different things. I guess that's the whole paradox of life. Like you just learn more as you get older. And things you wish you would have known when you were young, you didn't know. Yeah. So I try not to be too hard on myself about it, but also too is like I'm a big believer in like I hate people say like what's for you is for you, but like I ain't miss out on much. You know what I mean? Hey, what is mine will be mine. I had to go through that. I told you I think in song lyrics. Yep. Drake got a song called Practice off Take Care. It's like, these other women just practice. That's just what it is. Like they practice right now for when I finally settle down with my wife. Like I'll be the person I need to be. So I try not to count it as like a missed blessing, but just a learning experience. It's a lesson. It's a lesson in all of these experiences.
Yeah, that's what I'm definitely trying to like learn now. It'd be hard though, because sometimes you thinking like, dang, like, and then you see somebody and they doing really great, or and you're like, damn, like, I miss. But you know what?
Could have been a record.
Could have been a record. Yeah, exactly. Could have been a record. Could have been, but it's not. But the one thing I did want to ask you, and we kind of like tapping into this, is like masculinity and being a black man, and kind of like the examples that we've seen, because I think sometimes like the examples that we have been shown set up our interactions and set up the reasons why we're missing all these things or missing all these opportunities. So for you, like, how did you learn how to be a man, or what was masculinity for you growing up?
I learned a lot from like black culture. That's the reason why I'm interested in researching black culture now, because like black culture in some ways like was my male figure, right? Like was my father in some type of ways. I didn't grow up with one. So like I remember like Jody from Baby Boy, you know what I mean? Like Jody, he still loved his mama, you know what I'm saying? But he wasn't really like he still was a roughneck nigga, you know what I mean? Or like music, thinking about, I don't know what girl from TikTok made a song. She want a roughneck nigga by the tongue. I don't know, you know what I mean? Just like that's what I learned. Like what it means to be a man is ultimately to be like almost stoic in a way in terms of emotions, but also still too like you'll go upside somebody's head if you need to. I really would say I didn't realize it at that point, but I had always like admired Will Smith. Like Will Smith is my go-to form of masculinity. I think like that's the person I look up to. As controversial as it may seem now, like I don't really care, but I really think like I've learned like he is who he wants to be like fully, and I think that once I tapped into like Will Smith and his personhood, and even now more than ever his personhood, I really think that's like a model form of masculinity. But like at first it was hard because I was looking at all the 50 Cents and all the trap music. I'm from Atlanta, so we got T.I. and they, you know what I'm saying, they really like that. For me, I'm like, I'm out here reading Twilight. I have nothing like them. And I went to school on the south side of Atlanta, so they was outside. You know what I mean? It was a little rough. So I don't know. Yeah, to grow up in those spaces it was interesting.
So like, did you struggle with have like almost like an awakening of a point of like, this idea of masculinity that I was taught when I was younger, this is not who I am? Like, what was that like awakening?
I've always known. Yeah, I've always known. I just ain't never embodied it. I think that, so when I was in high school, I like picked up this like asshole persona. Now granted, I'm naturally an asshole. I really do be in that bag sometimes. But like, it was an overdrive. Like to a point where it was like, people liked me, but it was still like, you ain't have to do that for real. But I would say when I got to college and went to UGA, and people talk about PWIs as if we don't have like a black population, but UJ had like 27,000 students. I want to say maybe 13% of that was black. That's a small HBCU in terms of numbers. So I was exposed to like hella type of black folks, and I was like, ain't none of these niggas rough. I'm the roughest one here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that being in those spaces allowed me to see like, oh, like blackness look different depending on region, and class, and where you come from, and age placement within family, but also too being a black man that look different too, depending on where you are. And I really do feel like I found a safe space in college, in undergrad, to just be. Now, granted, it was interesting to like navigate that, but like, I would say college was my awakening of understanding. Like, dang, I actually can be who I want to be, because these people don't think I'm soft; they just think I'm just me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's so interesting too, because you come from Atlanta. You know what I mean? Atlanta is like the mecca of like black people here in the U.S. So it's like so interesting to hear you say that. And I think for me it was like a very similar experience, because I went to mostly like, I'm from Malden, which is like 10 minutes outside of Boston. So I grew up in a very like multicultural area. Yeah. But like if you went through my parents' house, you go through it now, there's like black art, black everything. Like my parents were like really big on just like teaching, educating, making sure I knew like you are a black man in America. It's a different experience. Even in high school, we always had the black table, where it's like the lunch table, the morning table where we got together. But for me too, it was like similar as far as like college, going to UK and seeing blackness in so many different ways of like, oh, y'all like this? Or y'all do it like that? Or y'all dance like this? Or y'all dress like... It was like this almost like awakening of, again, like, yo, I could just be. Yeah. I just be myself. But I think also too, I struggled with that masculinity piece, because I felt like a lot of what masculinity was taught in college was still kind of that, the provider, the strong, you got to look like this. And of course, like when you go into a D1 school and you have athletes and you have football players, basketball players, and all these different elements to it, then you see what people gravitate to. And then it's like, oh man, so I got to be like this or like that. So for me, I think like it really wasn't until like 22, 23 when I started to be like, you know, I'm a man. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I am a man. Like, I don't have to be anybody. I don't have to do something. Like, I might not know how to change a tire, but I could protect in this way. So I might not be able to do this quote-unquote thing. And that was, like, really, like, the game changer for me to just step into my own manhood of, like, oh, yeah, bro. Like, I'm good.
How was that then? Because I think about, from my perspective of, like, not having a dad, I would assume that when dad's in the picture, they take, like, I guess the model role for what it means to be a man. Like, how was that process for you then?
So for me, it was funny, right? If I'm being honest, I used to feel a lot of shame growing up because I had a dad and a lot of the people I was hanging out with didn't, right? So there was always that part of like me not feeling like I was good enough or I was a good son. But I would say like growing up with my dad was the example, and he set a high standard because I mean like he was like, whenever he would always have me playing like sports in the projects or like where he grew up, and I would always hear like, yo, your dad is amazing. As a hooper, he did this, he was great, he almost went pro, he was like that. From like a work standpoint, my dad works like crazy hard, and he reached like the pinnacle of his career. So you got everybody like, hey man, your dad's this great person. So I think for me, it set a standard of greatness and excellence that I wanted to reach, to be like him. And he taught me how to like take care of people. He taught me how to love people. He taught me how to really just be silly, be fun, but be serious at the same time and handle business. Yeah. But I think because me and my dad are so much alike, there's a lot of moments where we butted heads. And not because he did anything, but because it's almost like you don't want to be your parents. Like, I don't want to be like him. I want to be my own person. I don't want to live in his shadow. And I think I gravitated to my cousin, Vincent, who, like, his story is more so like he was the person who like got into like selling drugs and doing all these different things. And he was the one who really taught me, I would say like for your brother to you, he was like my brother for me. He was the one who taught me about like, I remember thinking a thug or learning about thugs through school and all these white people being like 50 cents like this and Nigel, you black, you not acting like that. And then knowing somebody who actually was in it. And seeing him be emotional and seeing him being like, yo, I really don't like
being
He
was a good image for you then.
He was a good image. I'll be honest with you, like if it wasn't for him, he was the one who steered me away from all of that. Like that wasn't, it was a lifestyle that I understood was like necessary for some people to get by, even though it's not always like justified. But I understood why he was in it. He taught me that side of it. But never from a glorification of like, this is survival, and I don't want to do this, and there's so much more. And Nigel, you're on the right path. You gotta go this way. So like for him, he was the one who really like changed and made me feel comfortable being open, because he's the hardest person I know telling me about how he feels, and that for me was like game changing for sure.
Yeah, man, that's real. It's always like you find like almost solace in like some of the most unexpected places. Like you said, your cousin who was in the streets, like you wouldn't expect just to have so much like emotional competence. But like, man, we be sleeping on hood dudes. They really be knowing. Yeah, you know what I mean, they be tapped in for real. They be tapped in. I think about you said your dad played basketball. Yeah, it's interesting we're having this conversation and talking about basketball. Basketball in my head is like center of masculinity, and it's the thing I can't do.
Really?
Yeah, bro. I'm good at everything. Not me being brag, not me being arrogant, but like I'm fairly decent at everything. There's not many things I've tried in life and was terrible at. Basketball, bro, I just can't do it. I took a whole basketball class. Like I tried. I'm around like 16. I don't know. We got hella male cousins. Like they all play basketball. They all hoop. I'm sit on the side. You know what I mean? So growing up and not being able to play basketball really was a big hit for me too. I was like, I don't know who I am. I like superheroes, you know what I mean? Yeah. I like music, and I like, guitars and all type of crazy junk. I would say that me accepting like, you just don't need to go to no basketball court was hard. Yeah. I think once I finally accepted that, I was like, okay, I'm a man now. Damn. Which is so crazy. The smallest thing of playing basketball, but just like, when it comes down to camaraderie amongst men, like, even the sorriest dude go here like, you can play a game. I can't. I probably can, but just in my head, I don't know.
No, that's real, because I've never thought of that perspective, because in my mind it was like that was like football. Like I remember I played football for a year, and it was like I was good, but I wasn't great, and I also didn't like getting hit. Yeah, you know what I mean. I was the person who like I'm trying to run away from the contact. I'm not trying to get hit.
I feel that.
But like to me, it was like people who were like the ideal man were the people who were in those type of like sports. But I was similar to you in the sense of like, I love comic books. I like to read. I was telling you, I had a whole Tumblr page. I like to write. And I think a lot of those things I was hiding from a lot of people, a lot of men. Because women, a lot of my women friends, they knew. But a lot of men, I was hiding like those pieces of myself. And again, like it wasn't until my cousin. My cousin was the one who really got me into comic books. Yeah. He was the one who was like, he would read a book a day. He would watch Jeopardy, and I swear he would get like all these questions right. You know what I mean? Like he was that smart person that was like what made it okay. And I think like if I didn't have that example of him and my dad, I don't know where I would have ended up, because where I had them, my friends around me didn't have that, and that's when they kind of got into like the other distractions. And I don't know. Sometimes I used to feel bad because I had that exposure, and I couldn't like help other men see that. Yeah,
that's the thing about it too. Like almost like I was talking to Dr. Malone. Who was it? Was it Dr. Malone? Maybe it was Dr. Nifley. I'm talking about therapy stuff. But I had like a male client, and me and bro was just on two different pages. Like I wanted to like help him come out of that space, right? But like sometimes you gotta meet people where they're at. And it's hard to do that when you've never been in that space or you're not where they are. So like when it gets to logic around like anti-women or like the divine masculine, I don't know if you heard that type of talk. I'm like, I ain't never been there. I can throw you a Bell Hooks book, and then we can talk once you get done with that. But like I don't know how to do that. So it is like I do feel bad, right? Because in certain cases, I know I can help you. I just don't know how to, because the spaces that you're in, I've never even explored. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to navigate.
I'm gonna be honest with you too. I think like even when it comes to like certain things like this, like the conversation series, podcasts, or even like when you look at like my friends, I've always associated myself more with women. Like I'm always surrounded by women. And when it comes to men, I feel like my vetting process of men, of like who I consider like a friend, who I put in my circle, it's so much more rigorous because of these reasons. As far as like, it's really hard to connect with men further than surface level. Like if you're really trying to get deep and really talk about emotions and really talk about how you're feeling, I think like a lot of my friends that I have now were able to do that at any point in time. But I always struggle with not being able to always do that for other men. And then like what we were talking in the other video, like not feeling responsible or almost feeling responsible to try to like help somebody, but knowing I just can't. I don't have the power. I'm not the right messenger for them. So like I don't know. It's always weird when it comes to like those male to male interactions. Because again, black women are my safe space. I know at the end of the day I could talk to them about whatever.
Yeah.
Men, it's always like a lot difficult.
It's different. Yeah. It's interesting because I say the same thing. Like we tapping in on the same level because there's some male friends I got and they be on it. You know what I mean? Like they be tuned in. Maybe not to the level I am because I do like therapy and psychology work, but they be tapped in. And there's some other ones I'm like, it don't really be there. But those are some of the best friendships too, though.
They are. They are for sure.
There's some friends I can call, and I was saying this on the previous video. I don't want to call you if I do something crazy. I'm sorry. I don't want to call you and have to hear about you getting on my ass and what I should have did and holding me accountable. Sometimes you just want a homie that's gonna kick it and be able to laugh with you. Yeah, like, those are some of the most beneficial friendships. And I was saying like some of my male friends, like I tap in with them with that because I know that. Like, if anything, they're going to make me just okay with what's going on right now before I get into the space of like, okay, I shouldn't have did that. Let me go do this. Sure. Let me go do that. Like, there's utility in, like, friendships. I think that trying to figure out their utility and, like, what space they have is really it's difficult to navigate. Mm-hmm. So.
No, that's true. I definitely have those friends. I think the only time where, for me, it gets difficult is, like, when they bring up those topics or there's those conversations that bring me back to my childhood. It's like when I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't agree with it. Like, I don't agree with this. Yeah. But I know if I say anything or when I say something, it's not going to register. Yeah. So it puts me in that position of like, damn.
Yeah. Me and my line brothers, now that these conversations are popular, like, I don't get bullied for it so much. But like Destin, Mr. Feminist, or like genderqueer, they always say stuff like that. Yeah. Sure, I be like, bro, chill on me. I'm just telling y'all the truth.
For sure. Bro, I'm not going to lie. I had a conversation recently about it. Yo. One of my homies, he was like, "Oh, Nigel," they were talking about women or something, and they were like, "Oh, I'm surprised, Nigel, you don't have anything to say right here. You're usually the one who's advocating more than us." And I'm just like, bro, like, come on, man. Like, but yeah, I think one thing I can say is like I'm happy there's a lot more conversation on it because I think now people are a lot more open to listening to it. There's only a small, I'm not gonna say small. There's only a percentage of men who are just like completely closed off, but I think there's a lot more people like getting more open to those type of conversations or having those experiences where they're seeing like, oh, this experience is different for women and men. Yeah,
and one of the most healing experiences I've had in life was like my brother coming to me and like talking to me about something like anxiety. I'm like, this guy, the person I look up to, the person I think the world of, coming to me like telling me what he's describing to me, what I know is anxiety. He might not be using that same language, but I don't know. I was just like, wow. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we really growing as a society then, you know what I mean? Because people are allowed to be vulnerable and show up as their full self and like maybe not have the most emotional competence, but they working towards it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I'm actually very excited to see where we are in like 10 years.
Nah, me too. Me too. I think what's cool is like the younger people are a lot more like open to it too. You know what I mean? Like I've had little cousins talk about like their own mental health and talk about anxiety. And
Gen Z is that deal.
Yo, Gen Z go crazy.
I'm Gen Z. Like, I'm on it. I'm middle.
Y'all going crazy. I'm like the cuff, like millennial Gen Z.
We right in the same area then. You like at the end of millennial. I'm right at the beginning of Gen Z.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see. But the one thing I wanted to ask you though, especially from like a therapist perspective, is like you work with both clients, black men, black women, and one thing we're talking about, especially with black women, is when they kind of bring that perception of men to the table when they're talking to you. Yeah. Can you like speak more on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's really interesting working with black women. I've told you already, like I feel natural talking with black women. Mm-hmm. Like I see a sister in them, my mama, my auntie, homie, whatever the case may be. Like I see a little bit of a piece of my women interactions in them in some way, which is helpful because, you know, I think in black spaces it's always good to have somebody that understands you, but also too, it's not always helpful because I don't want to make any assumptions about their experiences. Mm-hmm. So I'm always checking in and say, does this work for you? Does this not work for you? But also too, one thing I've noticed is that when black women do therapy with me, sometimes it's a healing experience because they have these experiences that they have with black men. One thing, let's name this about black women. The research shows that black women are least likely to date outside of their race. Black women want black men. Absolutely. Let's just make that be clear right here. So when they're coming in, they're talking about men, 9 times out of 10 they're talking about black men. Mm-hmm. And there's something called a corrective emotional experience, which means that the therapy space is used to correct past experiences that they had. So when they come to me and they're talking about men, which is more than likely the black man, then and I don't react in a way where I validate their experience, I affirm their experience, I listen to them, I give them all the space they need. That almost like serves as a way to correct some of their past experiences that they've had with black men. And I've seen it time and time again where it's like somebody telling me something about some negative experience I had, and like nobody believed me. And I'm like affirming everything. Yeah, okay, I understand why you responded this way. I get why you did this. That makes total sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Affirming that experience and validating that, man, it's such a healing experience. And they'll even name it like, I never know how much I need to hear that because this person who's a black man didn't believe me, or my brother, or whatever the case may be, like they didn't believe me in this case. So, yeah, I would say it's very healing, and I enjoy seeing it.
How do you feel like that has like changed you in the interactions with the black women around you?
Oh yeah, I'm more conscious. I think that one thing I never want to be, and I tell people this, the goal in life should be, I don't want to be mentioned negatively in therapy. Like we don't understand just how like the small things that we do, like carry on and be like the biggest deal in somebody's life. Like the smallest comment, the way you look at somebody, like they'll come in and be like, Nigel looked at me this way, and now I've been feeling like this for the past month. He's like, dang, I don't think much of that interaction. Yeah. So I think I'm very like more aware of how I deal with women in general. I mean, granted, like I said, I'm still growing as a person. I still have my asshole ways. I'm not perfect by any means, but like I'm aware of just how much an apology can mean, and sometimes how necessary it could be, even though if I don't see the reason in it, like there's benefit in doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
So
you know what's crazy? Recently I had a friend who asked me, he was basically like, yo, if you were gonna give any advice of like interacting with women, talking to women, what would you give? And it was a wild question because it was more so of like, I feel like a lot of men struggle with this, right? Yeah. It's like, how do I better understand a woman? Let me go to my homeboys. Let me ask my homeboy about it. And I think like for me, my interactions with women absolutely changed when I stopped looking for my homeboys' approval and their validation or their advice, and I just went directly to a woman. Yeah. And the one thing that you said that I really appreciate and I want to highlight is the fact that you were even just like, I'm asking like, does this work? Is this what you need? What is that? Because I think like as men, that's one thing that we don't do is we don't talk to women. Yeah. We don't, like we talk to them and we talk to them more so as like, almost like our therapist, but we don't have actual real genuine conversation as far as like, okay, so what do you need? What do you want? Because we're always taught to provide. We're always taught to be this ideal of masculinity that definitely removes their own voice into that whole conversation. Yeah. It's like, let me force this on you because I know this is what you want, when we don't even take the time to like ask, do you want this? It's
so important to create space. Yeah. I've been in discussions recently. I was like, dang, I didn't realize just how loud my voice is sometimes, right? So like how important it is to be like, actually, I'm gonna take this space. I'm gonna take a step back and just let you have the floor. Like it's so important to like allow black women to be able to voice their opinions. Like I don't think people understand just how important that is to like the success of communication, the success of relationships. Like absolutely, giving that space when it's needed. Yeah.
And then and to add on to that, give them the space, but also listen. Because a lot of us aren't listening.
Word to Beyonce, listen.
you gotta listen. And I think that's the game changers, because the minute you start listening and you listen to understand, then you can start seeing patterns. Then you can start, and I think that's what happened for me. Is like one person told me, all right, I might have pushed back a little bit, like in my mind, like I don't know. But then when I started like really listening, I'm listening to multiple people say the same thing over and over. Like, oh, this is a pattern. Yeah. This is something that's repeated for a lot of interaction experiences. So. Yeah, that listening and that understanding piece is huge. Yeah,
a lot of men understand they're just willfully ignorant. I get where you coming from, but I'm gonna act oblivious. Yeah, I'm gonna act like I don't know, or even like weaponized incompetence. Like all those things come into play with some men. I don't know why it takes so much to just accept accountability for us. Yeah, I feel like we do a really good job at that, but yeah, there's a lot of willful ignorance that goes on within black men's spaces. Act like they don't know why somebody mad at them. It's like, dude, this random mug all weekend. Your story on Instagram shows you with all those, you know what I mean? You outside, and now your girlfriend mad. Now you don't know why she mad because you got old girl dancing on you. Y'all talked about this 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's like that's willful ignorance. You know what I mean? It's gaslighting. Terrible behavior.
That's that pride and ego. But I think like men are homosocial, right? Like we do things to impress other men. We don't do things to impress women, right?
That's so true.
So it's like if I could get the validation from my homeboy, and he could like he sits there and he's like, yeah, I might have cheated on my girl, but he's like, yo, the girl you cheated on is bad. Yeah, and they gonna be like, you gonna feel good. You gonna be like, yeah, I did what I was supposed to do, and then we don't even take into consideration like, damn, how does that make her feel? Like, what is that? And I think those are like the things that we gotta more shift. And it's funny too, because now I'm really good, especially with my younger cousins when they talk. Yeah. And I'm hearing them talk, I'm calling them out. I'm like, why do you think that's cool? Yeah. Why does that work?
Who told you that?
Who told you that? And I think now they're starting to step into that, like, oh yeah, this isn't cool. Like, dang, it's not letting me feel. So yeah, those are them conversation shifts that we definitely gotta do more as men.
That's my favorite question to ask. Who told you that? I'm not sure if I talked about this with you already, but in the Bible, you know, I'm not sure if folks are super religious, but in the Bible, Adam and Eve, they ate this fruit, and then God came looking for them, and he was like, you know, where y'all at? And they was like, I'm naked, God. And, you know, God was like, who told you that? Who told you was naked? Mm-hmm. And that's my favorite question to ask of all time. Like, everything I go through in life, and if I have, like, some belief, I'm like, who told you that? Yeah. And you deep dive on who told you 90% of the things you said, you're like, I'm listening to this fool? This Jane? You know what I mean? It's like, nah, bro. It's like, why do I believe that? It's essentially asking, why do you believe what you believe? And like, what is it? What's the foundation of that belief, bro? You'll be shook or just about how much you've learned from some of the most taboo things or taboo people or people that probably weren't the best to learn from. Things that weren't the best to learn from.
Absolutely. I want to shift a little bit, right? Because I think another thing that you do like really well is like you traveling. And I think being able to travel, like I can say from my own experience, I've never been outside the country. Like I've been to a lot of different states, but I've never been outside the country. And a lot of it is my own kind of like fear of going out and just not knowing how to navigate, not knowing what's going on, but also too, I just don't know. Right. But it's something that you've done a lot. So like, how did you navigate that?
Wait, first off, if you were to travel, where would you go?
Greece, for sure.
Greece? Why Greece?
Greece. So one of my good friends is in Greece. So when I came to UK in undergrad, they was here. And I met her. And she was just always telling me, like, yeah, this is... She's black and from Greece. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, you black and from... Like,
Greece? Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy. So I just want to be able to, like, go there and visit. She's originally from Germany, but she lives in Greece. But I want to just be able to visit and to see. So, like, I'm always the person, like, if there's community there, or I know somebody, I'm more likely to go there. Yeah. Versus, like, going somewhere and not knowing anybody and figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Greece was Athens, or I want to say Santiago, maybe? I don't know if that's Greece, Italy. But, okay. So, my travel story. This is a Nigel exclusive. Okay. Let me tell this travel story. But, so I remember in undergrad, my best friend, Ibra, his man is a travel goat. He travels more than me type of thing. Mm-hmm. But he went to go study abroad in France. And I remember I said, I don't want to study abroad in France. I like studying in America. Why do you think I want to study abroad? He was like, all right. So he went, and he did a couple different trips. And I remember me and him did a joint trip post-graduation to Jamaica, and Jamaica was phenomenal. Jamaica, that's still one of my top 5 favorite trips of all time. I was probably 21 wet behind the ears type vibe. And then he went to go do like a work study in Thailand. And he was like, you need to pull up on me. So I was like, all right, I bought this expensive ass ticket. I mean, it is what it is. I saved up for it, I bought it. And I went and spent like, I want to say about 10, 11 days out there with him. And then while I was on that trip, I did a solo trip to myself. I went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. On like a $30 flight type thing. So it's cheap. And I remember being over there and was like, dang, these people live a totally different life from anything I know. And it makes you understand, I guess it starts to make you wonder just like, bro, the way that I see the world is limited, bro. It's like, this ain't life. Like what we know right here is such a small portion of what life is. And also too, I love people. And I think me traveling to get to meet people and understand how this group of people act versus that group of people and what's culturally right here versus what's culturally right there, bro, it's amazing. I'm in love with thrill of just like the introduction to new things, new culture, new people, bro. It's a beautiful experience. I'm blessed to be able to like travel as much as I already have.
How many countries have you been to?
26. I just did 26 on my 26th birthday, bro.
Hey,
Iceland, that's what's up. It was a good time. Iceland was nuts. It was a good time though.
So my question about that, right, is like I think, and I'm speaking for myself, but I also have friends who are like in kind of the same boat. Is like a lot of the barriers of us traveling, fear, financial, and then again like just not knowing like the culture of like how they interact. So how do you kind of like go go towards those 3.
Okay, let's talk about it. We'll start with all of them then. The first one is fear. So I did my first solo trip when I was in Malaysia after I was going from Thailand, and I would say that I was kind of scared. Then again, I'm like, I'm from Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like the general rule of thumb is that I would say common sense will get you very far. I know a lot of people don't have it, but common sense will get you very far. The reason people go bad is they go abroad and then do things they wouldn't do at home. Me, I'm not doing nothing I wouldn't do at home. So in terms of like, if I'm stepping outside the house past a certain time, then I'm Ubering somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm somewhere that's well lit. Like a lot of people move as if like these places abroad are supposed to be like safer anywhere else. Like, nah, it's just commonly just like everywhere else in the world. So if you move with a little bit of sense and move with grace always, you'll be fine. Because I would say that as a Black American traveling, people don't really want no smoke with you. They just want to, look at you, take pictures. They might be a little rude, but like they ain't really trying to run your pockets and nothing like that. At least far from my experience. But I would say in terms of conquering that fear, I would say it takes a little bit of like trusting yourself and like trusting almost like yourself as an adult. Yeah. Like trust that you wouldn't make any weird decisions that'll get you out bad. A way to kind of buffer or against some of that fear, maybe like Google some of the cultural things that's going on in the place. Like, okay, don't get caught up in this scam. You know what I'm saying? Or don't ride this bus. Don't do that. Actually, it might be best for you to hire like a personal taxi everywhere. It just depends on where you are. But like, there's some places where you can be willy-nilly drunk in the middle of the street at 4 a.m. And there's some places where it's like, nah, I'm putting my phone in my boxers because I ain't going out bad type vibe. It just all depends on the culture of that space and the research that you do into it. I would say as researchers, like, there's nothing we can't find out by like Googling it. And with TikTok, bro, you can learn anything you need to know about a country. But I would say it's gonna take a big leap to do it first by yourself. Yeah. But now I'm just like, ain't no country I'm scared to go to by myself. I would love to go to a lot of countries by myself, actually.
No, I'm definitely like, I told myself the minute I graduate and get my PhD, I'm out.
Why wait, bro? What you waiting on? Why would you get your PhD?
So that's a great question, right? I think like it goes back to the second part, like the finance and then just the timing of everything. But the one thing that I appreciate about what you do is more so it's like you do it in between the program. And in my mind, I be watching, I'm like, bro, I don't know how the hell he does all of this. Because, man, you got homework, you got papers, you got readings, you know what I mean? But I think like the one thing I told myself is during the year, I'm going to travel more so like in the country. And then once I graduate, then I'm going to go outside the country and like definitely going to London. I just met somebody in London who I definitely want to link up with. Germany, Greece, like those are like the top 3 places I'm trying to go for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hey man, I would say that like, I always ask people like, why wait? Like, why postpone? Because I was doing that at first. Like, I get married once I get out my PhD program. I get in a serious relationship. Like, dang, I'm really basing my life around this damn program. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because the reality is that there's always gonna be something. Well, once I finish my internship. Once I finish my postdoc. Once I get this serious job. Now, once I buy this house. You know what I'm saying? There's always something that we have to do that we're going to postpone life for. I told myself, I'm never postponing joy. Ever. Never again. I spend way too much of my time like postponing. Like, I'll do this once I have the funds for it. It's like, the way, that's 6 years of me living off a $25,000 graduate student check. That money ain't coming no time soon. You know what I mean? It's like, I got to make do with what I have. But getting into the finances, though, I think that as Black Americans, we're used to like vacations, right? So the expensive resorts, the nice beach houses, you know what I'm saying? Like those things. It's just like, for me, like I travel, so my experience is a little bit different. Like, so for instance, when I'm going out, like I'm not staying in no hotel. I have never stayed in a hotel traveling on my own accord. I stayed in a hotel once in Panama, and that was Panama City, and that was something my friend wanted to do. Anything else, I'm getting a $30 Airbnb a night. You know what I'm saying? That's cheap. I'm paying $90 to stay here for 3-4 days. That's cake to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can do that. Another way to cut food, like, I'm a big believer in, like, when you're abroad, bro, street food is everywhere. Americans don't do street food in the way that other places do, but, like, you can get a 30-cent full meal, you know what I'm saying? And be totally fine. Like, I don't think that, like, I need to go out and, like, have the finer things in life. My rule of thumb is if I don't need to go somewhere that's better than my apartment. As long as it's not worse than my apartment, I'm good. I can stay there, right? Yeah. And then likewise with food, like, I feel like culturally you get a better experience if you out here eating the street food. Now, granted, you could go and spend $150 on a meal, but just like, for what? When that $150 could be going to something else, right? So and then also too with excursions, if you can plan a birthday party, then you can plan a trip. I was an RA, so I had like experience with planning and doing things. But bro, I would say like these excursions, if you go to Mexico, they're gonna take you to a cenote, they're gonna take you to try street food, they're gonna take you to this beach, and it's like, bro, if you to pay for a car, you can do all those things for $5.
Yeah,
you get what I'm trying to say? So it's just like the scam of vacationing versus like commitment to traveling is a pipeline that I think we all have to go through. I think to be safe, a lot of people like to have a vacation type of trip. Mm-hmm. But bro, traveling is so much simpler. It just takes maybe a little bit more effort.
How do you think traveling, like all your traveling experience, like what did you learn about yourself? Or what's the biggest lesson you learned about yourself through it all?
About myself?
Mm-hmm.
Oof. I think that it's interesting to see myself across many different spaces, right? Like, so a lot of people like tap out in high school. They have their clout. What is it called when people like are big time in high school but never big again? What is it called? There's a phrase that people say. Yeah, peaking, right? So people peak in high school, and I always thought like, okay, I'm homecoming king in high school. I'm, in student council, I'm very popular in high school. So I thought I was gonna peak in high school, and I got to college, and I was like, you did the same thing. I didn't peak in college either. Like I was high up, doing all these nice things. And then now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, my PhD program might peak. And then I go abroad, and I'm still doing like things, and ultimately at the core of that was connecting with folks. Yeah. Like it showed me that like at my very core being, what I am is a connector. I can connect with someone. I have a friend named Chardonnay. He's from Senegal, West Africa. Me and that man be FaceTiming, and I don't know what he be talking about. I promise you. I just be like, he be trying. He speak a little bit of English, so we work it out there. But he mostly speaks French. Yeah. And Wolof, that's the language of the Senegal folks. But like, bro, it's just like, I don't know what he's saying. We just connected. We locked in for life. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. That's what it taught me about myself. And then what I learned about the world is, bro, people are generally good. Like, we buy into some of the propaganda of what it means to be American. Some countries are enemies and evil and all of this stuff. But like, bro, there's never been a time where I was abroad where somebody didn't go out their way to help me. I was in Lima, Peru, bro, and we were in the middle of the highway with luggage. You know what I mean? And some random students came with us like, y'all know where y'all going? Came and ate lunch with us, bought us tickets to get to where we were supposed to go. Bro, it was nuts. It was a good experience. So that was my two big takeaways. People are generally good, and I think at my very core, like, I'm a very interpersonal person. Like, I like to connect with folks on a much deeper level.
Yeah. Bro, do you realize, like, how dope you are?
I appreciate that. Do
you realize that?
You've been saying that today, and, like, the black man in me is like, nah, bro, I'm trying to get like you. But I was like, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna sit in and appreciate that. But, like, I fight the urge, but, like, yes, I appreciate you.
Nah,
that's love, man.
Bro, I was telling you earlier, but again, like, the work in which you're doing, to be able to, like, again, like, watching you travel, watching you like step into your own, and like TikTok, and we definitely talked about social media and how it's hard to always like put yourself out there and be consistent and do all that. But you're doing it, and you're doing it at such a high level. And even though like it might feel like you're not great or you might not where you want to be at, like, bro, you're doing it huge. And that's something that's like really inspirational for me. And a quick backstory. So I didn't know who you were, but I had a lot of people talk about you.
Really?
I heard a lot of people talk about you. And they were all like, yo, there's this grad student in psych that you really need a link with, you need to talk to. And usually, like, whenever people tell me that, I hear so many people say, like, yo, you need to meet this person. And sometimes it's in one ear, out the other. But when we were at this, like, My Brother's Keeper, which was, like, this support group for black and Latino men on campus. Yeah. And kind of just being in the room and hearing you talk and hearing you articulate yourself and not... Sometimes I think, like, in my own way when it comes to men and other black men, not that I feel competition towards it, but sometimes, again, like, my natural feeling is like, oh, man, usually I got to, like, wait and listen to what they talking about, wait till I hear them, see them, before I could, like, trust or open up and feel more comfortable around those people. And, like, you were one of the people who, when you first, bro, the first thing, I don't even remember what you said, but whatever you said, I just felt. Like, I felt your energy, and it was like really, really down to earth, really cool. And from there, just being able to like get to know you, talk to you, network with you, like, bro, you are dope. I want you, like, you gotta internalize that you are dope. Bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's love. Likewise, though, I definitely thought you were gonna stand out too at that event. I was like, nah, I gotta tap in with bro. He too cool. I want to say I like Googled you or something. I did something. The research in me. I'm gonna find out who you is.
I'm saying like,
I'm gonna find out who you is. Like, okay, I see you. But no, man, I appreciate that though. Likewise though, I told you I wasn't gonna do it, but I feel I want to go. But like, nah, bro, seeing you work, bro, your work ethic is crazy.
Thank you.
Your work ethic crazy. Like the way you chasing, man, I'm very inspired by the way you do it. I feel like you do it at a high level.
Appreciate it.
Like there's Drake has a line. Who is it? That Drake? That's Sir. Sir said it must be official if I get involved. And I feel like everything I see you do is like just very official. Like the quality that you put into the effort and intentionality behind it, bro, it's solid.
Yeah,
like
I appreciate it,
man. In for real.
Since you said that, I got to shout out Kenny and I got to shout out Zamad. They both in here. They the ones who like, yo, when it comes to like the production, especially specifically Zamad, but Kenny always be coming along and helping and bringing his own energy and stuff. Like to all my bros who like help me. Like I would not be here doing any of this without them. So you know, teamwork makes the dream work for sure,
man. For sure.
But yo, I appreciate you for being here, man. This was a really good conversation. I'm excited for to put it out, and to everybody listening, appreciate y'all for watching another episode of the Convo. Again, right now we doing it out of my homeboy's apartment. Sooner or later, y'all gonna see me on the dungeon for real. Dungeon. Sooner or later, it's gonna be a nationally syndicated television series. So it's gonna happen. Y'all gonna see me on TV. But time being, I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Peace and love, y'all.